Hello everyone, welcome. Miami is about to get underway and guess what? It is raining. It's a very, very interesting condition. I believe, is it maybe the first time we are gonna get a wet race around Miami? I may be wrong. But yeah, for Kimi Antonelli, that is gonna be a bit of a mixed bag really. Usually for a Formula 1 driver, you would say they want a wet race, because they'll be able to use their skill to stay ahead from pole position. However, Antonelli hasn't had that much experience in Formula 1, so maybe he's hoping that that's not the case and it dries up sooner rather than later. That being said, they did score a fair few points on their debut in the tricky conditions at Melbourne, so I'm sure they'll be able to manage it quite nicely. Now, we're just waiting for the start. At the moment, it's going to be in a few minutes' time. We may have to do some syncing a little bit into the race, and we'll try and do that as smoothly as we can. We've tried to make sure everything's synced up, ready to go immediately, but we're going to have to just double check it a bit later. Hit the wrong button there, I do apologise, but here we are, we're all back. Just waiting for the start. And I believe we may see a rolling start. We're just having a look. The safety car is going to lead the formation lap, I am understanding at the moment. As DRS, of course, will not be enabled. Yes, the formation lap will be started behind the safety car. And then we will be racing. I'm just trying to get an eye in of the sync at the moment. As the formation lap is now underway. We're somewhat syncing up, just allowing this safety car period to give us that chance. Pretty difficult to do the syncing at the moment. But I believe we've got our best chance right now. Now it does look pretty treacherous out there. We're all synced, we're ready to go. No need to change the scene or restart the stream. The Miami Grand Prix is on its way. And that looks absolutely brutal. Antonelli will have the clear run ahead of them to be able to make this one work nicely. It will be Oscar Piastri sitting directly behind, as they are now coming to the end of the lap. And that's where Antonelli will either have to continue behind the safety car and they go again, or they'll go to start the Grand Prix. Now, Oscar Piastri reports the terrible conditions on track at the moment. And we just wait to see what's going on right now. They're going to be continuing behind the safety car, I believe, for another lap. And a second formation lap will come about. Has Max Verstappen had an issue? I don't think they have. Oh yes, no, he has. He has had an off. So he's gone off at... Well, I wanted to say it was the final corner. So, turn 17, completely deep, and they've ended up losing positions. They've now dropped from P4 down behind, that is Hamilton. So they've lost a fair few positions. Antonelli also reports terrible conditions. So Charles Leclerc did actually crash into the wall. That must have been on their installation lap. So that means that there will be an automatic promotion for Lewis Hamilton, the grid behind. And now the safety car's coming in along with all the cars, and we will get a red flag. We will not continue. And have to wait around Miami. A very tight circuit. It is crucial that they get this one right and keep the drivers safe. So completely understandable. Quite frustrating, but it's the way it goes in Formula 1. And we need to make sure this is safe. So Antonelli is going to have to delay their first start on the front row in Formula 1. The anticipation will build even further. And we'll have a period of no racing for a while. I do wonder if we get one lap less. 19 laps, does it go down to 18? Now we've done an extra formation lap. Or is that it done? I'm not entirely sure, and we haven't started the race at all. But we will hopefully get some more intel on that very soon. Now, Max Verstappen re-overtook and went into their original position for where they should start the grid, start the race. However, I don't know, is that regulation or not? Are you allowed to overtake? I'm sure you can in the situation that they had, so I don't think he would get any investigations, but it's definitely going to be looked at, I assume. And now at this point, what we will do is we will allow the screen to stay on. We will watch that race control message board closely and hope to see the race start as soon as possible. There is a limit and there won't be any flexibility to start about an hour later. Of course, we do have the LSI race to get to as well, so it may be that we need to sort something out, but we'll have a look and see how that one goes. For now, everything should be good as it is, and we will continue. We will mute for a bit and then come back in about 5 to 10 minutes unless we get more information. So we'll see you in a bit. Alrighty, at the moment, no confirmation on whether we'll be racing soon or not. I do believe the rain is not really scheduled to get worse over the next period, so hopefully we'll be able to get racing. On the top left of the screen right there, it does show 18 left, so I do believe we have taken away 1 lap from the Grand Prix because of that extra formation lap that we did do. Currently waiting with Antonelli trying to get their first race underway from pole position in Formula 1. Now, something that I didn't really get to talk about too recently. Well, first of all, the biggest news is Max Verstappen becoming a father to Lily with Kelly Piquet, but we've also got F1 considering raising speed limits and softening tyres to encourage pit stops, which I don't think is going to be happening soon, maybe in future seasons, which would be very interesting if they decide to go for that. I do know that this weekend they have brought the software allocation relative to last season in Miami, so they now have the C3, the C4 and the C5 as the hard, medium and soft tyres. So they have already gone softer to try and change the strategy and make things a bit more exciting this weekend. But more importantly, we will be getting a race start in a few minutes' time. About 8 minutes, we'll be looking to start once again. I believe that's actually the safety car will leave the pit lane and lead a formation lap. I don't believe it will be an actual race start at that point, so we'll probably be just leaving the pit lane and getting underway for green flag racing a little bit later on. There are frustrations, of course, for Charles Leclerc, who's had that crash on the installation lap before the formation lap begun, before they got the car to the grid. And it does mean that they lose out on some valuable points. However, they have to be remembering at least it happened now and not when it really matters most. For the main race, they'll be joining, of course, the grid for the full qualifying session later on as well. So still getting a good chance this weekend to score some good points. They've just made it a little bit more complicated for them and the mechanics, that is all. There you go. As expected, the race will start a little bit later, so I think the safety car may come out at 25 and then we'll be starting at 28. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe we'll be coming out on 28 instead. So a little bit longer to try and allow the rain to clear a little bit more. Ultimately, getting the cars out on track is going to clear a lot of the rain as well. The cars are getting turned on and the drivers are getting dressed, ready to get back into the cars to go again. Alrighty. Getting ready for the start. Still a few minutes left to go. But as I said, the cars are all getting prepared in the pit lane. And they'll be ready to go. I believe the rain has completely stopped now. It's still going to be some standing water. Millimeter-wise, I don't know how much. But the humidity has gone from about 80% to 70%. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how the conditions have changed and improved. It's still going to be a tricky race. I assume we're going to go all the way to the end on a set of intermediate tyres. And we're not going to change to any slick compound, but still waiting to see a few pictures of that yet, of course. A lot of pressure. A lot of anticipation now. Just to go over it again, we've had a few crashes so far this weekend. Oliver Behrman has crashed in practice. Then they had a terrible qualifying. They started P19. They ended up getting promoted. Or sorry, started P20. They ended up getting promoted because of Yuki Tsunoda dropping down the order for a penalty. And then, of course, Charles Leclerc has crashed on the installation lap before the formation lap. So that's put them out of the Grand Prix. So Behrman has managed to find 2 positions before the race has even started from their qualifying efforts that didn't go to plan yesterday. But of course, it's George Russell who's trying to make some progress, if they can, to catch up to their teammate. That's who they're focusing on, to make sure that they make a statement. But they've got to try and get through both McLarens and Max Verstappen, which seems like an impossible task. So, Charles Leclerc still blaming themselves for the crash. But they are explaining how they were aquaplaning and they couldn't control what was going on. The safety car is out on track at the moment, getting a feel for the conditions. But I believe we're still going to get that race start at 28 minutes past the hour. Now, Esteban Ocon just confirms that they might end up finishing the race on slick tyres. So, what I was suggesting maybe isn't true, as it never seems to be. That is an interesting feat. Now we have waited for about half an hour. The race should take us all the way to the other half of the hour, getting us the 7... Sorry, no. The 6 o'clock BST, 7 o'clock CEST. The tyre blankets are off. The cars are lined in the pit lane. We are ready to go. It's 28 minutes past the hour. Let's get it underway. Come on. Kimi Antonelli will lead from the safety car. And there they go. The pit lane exit is upon us. So we are still waiting to get a confirmation of whether the race start will be a rolling or a standing start. Once we know that, we will wait for the beginning of the Grand Prix. Will we get multiple laps? Multiple formation laps again? I'm not entirely sure. But currently you can see the hour mark has now been reached and there is a countdown going on. So either 18 laps remaining or the 59 minutes. We shouldn't get another red flag. We should be good to go as usual. Hopefully we can get a green flag very, very shortly. And now Yuki Tsunoda leaves the pit lane. And all the cars are out on track. Still pretty impressive to see that we've got Antonelli going into turn 12. And then we've got Yuki Tsunoda, who's only just left the pit lane. They've all left a massive gap to the car ahead of them to just try and give themselves a bit of breathing room to prepare their car for these moments. Still no confirmation of what we will be doing for the race start. But right now, the safety car will continue another lap. Max Verstappen says, raceable conditions now. Happy with the state of the circuit. Antonelli goes down the start-finish straight, following the safety car. And we now have 17 laps left. 2 laps into this Grand Prix already. Now, Oscar Piastri says not quite as optimistic comments as Verstappen, saying that the conditions are still pretty bad. They're better, but still pretty bad. The standing start will take place at the end of this lap, and Kimi Antonelli will finally be able to start the sprint race in Miami for the first time in front of everyone. 18 cars behind, as now Yuki Tsunoda is classed as 19th, whereas Charles Leclerc is out. We wait for the cars to get lined up onto the grid, and the number 12 will lead the way. Now we're going to give it our best shot. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Only my second ever time commentating on a Formula 1 race event. I've done many practice and qualifying sessions, but only one race event before this, ironically in the USA as well. That was previously in Austin last season. I do apologise for the sound of my voice, but hay fever gets the better of you sometimes. But now, we get ready for racing. For something that we've been waiting for a fair while now. The anticipation is over. Antonelli is creeping to the line very, very slowly. He doesn't want to be sat cooling his tyres down. He's allowing everybody to catch up so that they can bunch up behind him and then line up very, very soon after. Otherwise, that would mean that Kimi would have to sit there, let their tyres cool, and be a sitting duck. So they've played that nicely. They are now in their grid spot. And we wait for the flag. Here we go. The lights. Ready. Hold. Go! Kimi Antonelli on the outside line into turn one. It's a good start from Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri isn't going to get there, surely. No, there may be a bit of contact. Antonelli goes off the road, and it's Max Verstappen who swoops around the outside. What a disastrous start. It's Hamilton on the inside of his former teammate, but Oscar Piastri has managed to get the job done, and now it is Antonelli who's trying to hold on ahead of George Russell. They just about do so, but what a disaster of a start right there. It was so close with Oscar Piastri. I don't know if it was an abort moment there or not. Claiming that he pushed him off. I don't know if there was contact, if anything would be done, or if it is just the game is the game. Oscar Piastri has made that work to perfection and now sits right there. It's George Russell who's challenging his teammate early on, trying to get there before they get to the tight complex and the Mickey Mouse section of the circuit, but they are stuck behind. Although they're trying to really put their nose in, they do back out and think better of it. It's the opening lap of a sprint race. Why would you risk that much when you've got to qualify later on? DRS not available. They go down the straight as they creep all the way on the traction as they leave turn 16 and head to turn 17, the final few corners of the circuit. And Oscar Piastri is about to lead onto the second racing lap of the Grand Prix. No overtakes, but there is definitely a few looks here and there from a few cars as they go into turn 17. Is that a Williams? Carlos Sainz having a go on Esteban Ocon. Didn't quite get the job done, but is pushing to the limit. Almost contact between the two. Very well done to both drivers to get through that corner. They stay ahead for now, and they continue on their merry way. It's Gasly sat right behind Carlos Sainz, looking very spicy as well, trying to have a go if Sainz makes a mistake whilst battling Esteban Ocon. So far, no one has managed to do anything, and they will stay as they are. Oscar Piastri is your new race leader by 1.8 seconds as Lando Norris backs off a little bit to get a clearer view of the track ahead and then assess the race. Would we see the slick tyres come in later on into this one? Well, it's definitely been a question that has been asked. It's a matter of time where we'll see that one happen. 79% humidity at the moment. It's raised a little bit. Carlos Sainz trying to have another go on Esteban Ocon, going for the switchback manoeuvre as they go round the outside, but it's just going to be a little bit too much for them there. They're going to try and have another go, possibly into the hairpin of turn 17. That is their best opportunity. They've just got to secure a good exit here. And Oscar Piastri reports that the circuit is drying incredibly fast, and that is going to really hint at the fact that we could get a bit of a strategy play in this race. And that Carlos Sainz continues to hunt down Esteban Ocon incredibly close. They pull to the inside line. They're going to have it. It's Ocon who moves in the braking zone, actually gets a little bit of an issue themselves. They were trying to go for the switchback, but they didn't quite pull it off so well. Now they've got the inside line, and they did get the traction down better than Sainz, and that is a phenomenal play from Esteban Ocon. A little bit naughty into the braking zone. Carlos Sainz is going to be pretty frustrated with that one, but Ocon on the switchback, absolutely perfect. Very well defended. They stay P12. P8 is where you get the last point, though. Hamilton complaining about the car at the moment, saying that he's having some issues. 7 seconds away from Oscar Piastri, 1.3 from Russell. They've got 1.3 away behind them is Albon. Alonso currently in a points-paying position, if they can make this one work, ahead of Lawson and Hadjar. Lawson doing some incredible stuff, by the way. Then they would get that first point for Aston Martin for their stint. I don't think that Antonelli can really fight anything in the steward's room with that one. Oscar Piastri found his way into a very good position on the start off the traction and has made it work to perfection. Got very, very close, just scaring Antonelli a little bit, and Antonelli just goes off the circuit, avoids contact, but also loses those three positions from Verstappen, Norris and Piastri. Looked treacherous earlier on in that race. Currently seeing the grid spread out for the top 5, and then Hamilton had a bit of kind of a train behind them. They're breaking away from the Mercedes themselves, not able to hold on so closely. Not too far at all, but when you've got Albon, Alonso, and then the Racing Bulls behind, they're incredibly close to each other. That's where the field really bunches up, and it's incredibly competitive. It does make the visibility very, very tricky to deal with, but it does mean that we could see a couple of overtakes if we are lucky. So far, nothing's going to happen. No further investigation there for Kimi Antonelli and Oscar Piastri, as expected. And that will stay as it is. Yuki Tsunoda making progress over Bortoleto and Doohan. They now have a bit of a gap of clean air to try and catch up to Behrman, as we wait to see if we will get to the slicks. And right now the circuit looks pretty dry. The spray in certain areas of the circuit doesn't look so convincing. So we've really got a bit of a mixed bag going on here. And that was nothing really changing. Alex Albon nice and close to the back of Hamilton. Alonso split away all of a sudden. And then we do have the two Racing Bulls who are still very close to one another. It is Esteban Ocon once again getting a lot of pressure from Carlos Sainz, as it's Carlos Sainz to the outside line, this time into turn 17, going to try and pull the dummy on his own move on himself, but no, he didn't get the job done. Carlos Sainz was not able to get the traction down like Esteban Ocon did a couple of laps ago, and will stay ahead. Tried to be a little bit wiser, tried to use his own tricks against him. Have to think about something a little bit different now. Have to try and hope that maybe they can get a bit of a strategy advantage if the track does dry up. Or just pace management, tyre management. But with 7 laps done out of 18, we are coming to the kind of halfway mark and running out of laps. Did not realise that Max Verstappen was under investigation there for grid slot position, but no penalty will be applied and they will be all good to go in this race. We have Oscar Piastri leading the Grand Prix by 1.9 seconds now ahead of his teammate. It's 2.6 seconds away from Max Verstappen, and then Antonelli and Russell following fairly closely to one another. Then there's a gap to Hamilton, who's got pressure from Albon running in P7 to score 2 points. Alonso, currently the last of the points runners. Hadjar and Lawson have broken away a little bit, lost some ground on the Aston Martin driver. It's still Ocon and Carlos Sainz having a go. It's Carlos Sainz once again to the outside line, and this time they broke so late to try and get ahead, but instead they've just completely overcooked it, and they go off the circuit. They rejoin back in where they were, but they do have now pressure, quite possibly from Pierre Gasly. A brilliant defense from Esteban Ocon, forcing Carlos Sainz to do things that they're not used to doing, and then it has worked out nicely for the Frenchman. Carlos Sainz, once again, has to go back to the whiteboard to think about a few more strategies to then put into play and have a go at making that move on Esteban. Now, everything is staying as it is on track for now. I will say, though, we've got a big advantage gain, of course, from the McLarens. They are definitely running away with it, and I don't think Oscar Piastri at this stage would be contested by Lando Norris either. The gap is only getting bigger, and for McLaren as a team, they're going to be very happy with that, of course. Verstappen is closer to Lando Norris than Lando Norris is to Piastri. So that's a bit of a threat that they've got to think about. It's Antonelli and Russell who might be looking at having a switch. I'm sure in the next few laps, if this stays as it is, it's Russell who will be definitely calling his team to allow a switch to happen. This time, Carlos Sainz is nowhere near close enough to have a go at Esteban Ocon, and there will be some breathing room with these guys, but it's Alex Albon who is now going to try and put the pressure on the other Williams. Max Verstappen complaining about visibility for his visor. Hopefully that doesn't escalate, because otherwise they'd have to come into the pit lane and fix that one and lose out a potential great result. It's Antonelli who's still ahead of George Russell, and George Russell's definitely putting on the statement here to try and get the Italian driver out of the way. Their teammate does have the ability to have the radio comms to be called out the way, but for now they're staying racing. I believe they're probably assuming that they are quick enough for the cars behind, and they're not really going to have any answers to the cars ahead anyway. So what is the point in switching if they can just allow things to sort themselves out for now? Well, I don't know. I would probably switch it and then have another look a little bit later on switching it back. But for now they continue. Not as quick as I thought drying the track, it says Oscar Piastri. So it's going to be quite possibly staying on the inters for this race. And you can run the intermediate tyre a little bit in the dry conditions. What you can get is kind of the tyre wears away. You get almost a slick compound and you get that grip, and it can go very quick. It's what we saw in the 2021 Turkish Grand Prix. We see Antonelli defending right there from George Russell, his teammate. And we see Hamilton and Albon very close together. It allows the Aston Martin to catch up. We're still seeing racing from George Russell and Antonelli. George Russell forcing a throw here and there. Now we are having a few other teams saying that we could possibly be on the slicks in a few laps' time. As I said, though, you can run inters in slick conditions a little bit. If you go off the racing line to cool those tyres down, also that will help you as well. We don't have DRS available, but we have different racing lines being pulled by both drivers in the Mercedes garage. Russell goes wide. I thought to get the traction down, but they've actually probably just lost more than they would have gained by going that wide into turn 7 and on to enter turn 8. So for now, Antonelli has a bit of breathing room. They're just waiting to see if DRS can be called in. It's Alex Albon who has a look to the inside line, a defensive manoeuvre there from Lewis Hamilton, but it forced Albon to go off the racing line, off the slick line, to go and cool those tyres down a little bit. They're still very close to the back of that Ferrari. And there is the call from George Russell, who's trying to get through. Alex Albon dancing the car through the Mickey Mouse section, and now has a clear run here at Lewis Hamilton into turn 17. Under braking, they'll have to get this one done with a wall that will be heading very quickly towards them. If they get it wrong, they move to the inside line. Hamilton goes slightly left, but not too much, and will stay ahead. A bit too far back there was Alex Albon. And they're going to have to try and force the Ferrari into a mistake elsewhere. Lap 11 out of 18 as Oscar Piastri continues to lead the way. This time by 2.1 seconds. They've lost some pace to Lando Norris, who's gained a lot on Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen still gained. Antonelli says getting close to slick, so these cars are definitely going to be starting to push it. It's Yuki Tsunoda into the pit lane very early on. Is that the slick compound tyre? I would assume it's going to be, and it is the slick. It's a medium compound tyre they've just put onto that car. Surely that's too early. They're going to have to follow the racing line. That's where they're going to be looking to go. They follow the racing line. You get that slick track that you can use that tyre on, but if you go slightly away from that racing line and go into the wet conditions, you will lose a lot of performance, and you could possibly find yourself going straight, and that could be pretty catastrophic depending on where you are on the circuit. Could you go straight into the wall? Yuki Tsunoda leaves the pit lane and is now going to really show everybody what is possible. Oliver Behrman, P14 now, as they made a move on Pierre Gasly to make some good progress from last position earlier on, and they're not too far away from their teammate as Carlos Sainz has made that move. And we could see pit stops on the next lap. You see the McLaren stay out. They are yet to see what Yuki Tsunoda can do on that tyre. We'll go through the first, the middle sector and see what is going to be possible. As you can see, the sector times 39s, we've got 40s and 39s being pulled by pretty much all the drivers. 39.3 here from Oscar Piastri, a 39.5 from his teammate Max Verstappen. It's Yuki Tsunoda who goes green and goes for a 38, as it's Hamilton into the pit lane to follow on, and they're on the soft tyre. That's going to be the better one out of the two. Not only is it softer, but it's going to be better in colder situations, colder conditions. You'll get that tyre up to working temperature a lot better than you would a soft tyre, and they come out nicely, just ahead, I should say, of that's Bortoleto. But no, it's a little bit closer than I thought. It's not Bortoleto. It is Bortoleto. They do have to concede the position, as the warmer intermediate tyre will still be good to go. Stroll, Sainz into the pit lane as well. Lando Norris has made a massive improvement here on Oscar Piastri, who wants to try and take victory once again in Miami. Not quite the Grand Prix victory, but the sprint race would be sweet as well. They've made some amazing progress in these last few laps, and I didn't really expect that one. 7 laps remaining in the Grand Prix, less than that now. And they're incredibly close, but not in a position to make an overtake. Would they go into the pit lane? Who's going to go into the pit lane out of the two? They stay out. They both continue. They're not going to go into the pit lane. Is Max Verstappen going to go for something a little bit different? Do they go into the pit lane? They do! They do! The McLarens could be in trouble here. Antonelli is going to follow on as well. George Russell is going to stay out, however, as they have to. It's a yellow flag. Who's gone off? Carlos Sainz into the Mickey Mouse section has an issue. Oh no! Contact in the pit lane! Contact in the pit lane! And the world champion has lost their front wing, leaving the pit lane. Contact with who? I don't quite know. In the pit lane it was Hadjar, I think. It was Hadjar. Hadjar surely going to be going slowly. Or was that the Mercedes of Antonelli that was in the way in the end? Carlos Sainz into the wall in that Mickey Mouse section. Has got a puncture on the rear left. They are going to be out of this Grand Prix. What a disappointing way to end such an eventful Grand Prix for them, making that amazing overtake on Esteban Ocon. The McLaren stay out. Oh, Piastri goes straight at the chicane. Makes a big mistake, gains some time, and Lando Norris is not going to be happy with that one. It's his teammate. There's nothing he can do. Are these guys going to go straight into the pit lane? Surely they have to. It's George Russell, it's Alonso who haven't gone into the pit lane either. Absolutely incredible. The race leaders are going to have to do something about it, because the slick tyre runner that's leading is now Antonelli, who's got an intermediate tyre runner in between, and it's actually Hadjar who went onto an intermediate tyre. There's Piastri into the pit lane, and it's Lando Norris who's forced to stay out. George Russell is possibly going to be looking at making the same call as well. But look at the time that's being gained from all of these cars. Absolutely incredible stuff. The soft tyres are definitely pretty good. It's Verstappen who goes ahead of Hadjar now, who makes it work despite that damage. That's just how good the slick tyres are at this point. Oscar Piastri comes out, currently P2, and I think will stick it very, very safely. Antonelli into the pit lane once again with their issues. So it was contact with Antonelli, I believe, and it wasn't contact with Hadjar. I do apologise for missing that one. Such a shame there for Antonelli, but they had to get the job done, and now George Russell is going to be safe from his teammate. And now Lando Norris is complaining about the debris. He sees his teammate go into the pit lane, immediately reports the debris that's in the chicane, hoping for a safety car so he can go to the pit lane. That's the strategy that he's trying to employ here. He's got 20 seconds to his teammate now. The only car that is out on the intermediate tyre. You've got the medium tyre runner of Piastri. It's Lewis Hamilton goes ahead of Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen just a sitting duck with that damage on the car, and Lewis Hamilton makes it work into turn 11. That was absolutely amazing. It's Lando Norris who is into the pit lane. There's going to be no safety car, I do believe. Double yellow in sector 13. A double yellow. Oh no! And Fernando Alonso is in the wall. Fernando Alonso has not made it work through turn 12 and crashes in the same place as where Kimi Antonelli had their issue in practice. Lando Norris goes into the pit lane, and they leave the pit lane. The race leader, Oscar Piastri, has been absolutely... Oh, I don't know what to say. How tragic. That's a tyre off as well there for Fernando Alonso. A bit of a bang, that's for sure. We could go all the way to the end of the Grand Prix here under safety car conditions, as Lando Norris manages to strike luck and lead the Grand Prix as Oscar Piastri pitted before. They will not be able to overtake, and that will stay as it is. And once again, under very dramatic conditions with safety cars around Miami, Lando Norris finds himself leading. Absolutely extraordinary. If anything could have happened, it has happened. I do not know what to say. Drama all over the place. So that's Antonelli's unsafe release being investigated on Max Verstappen, which would be very understandable, since, of course, it was an unsafe release and it's given them a lot of damage. Fernando Alonso out of this one, and of course Carlos Sainz as well, who really strange one there. Got a bit too tight on turn 14 and just completely hit the barrier on the inside. That spun their car and gave them a massive puncture with a bit of damage. The car scraping along the floor as well because of that. The tyre wall collapses, lowering the car. And yeah, Carlos Sainz down the order. And out of this one, And such a disappointing way to end that one. They are followed shortly by their fellow Spaniard of Fernando Alonso, losing actually a tyre onto the pit lane entry, which is a little bit dangerous. Just watching Max Verstappen's unsafe release now. That is really, really frustrating. Yeah, say it. Okay. So it was Max Verstappen and Red Bull's unsafe release. It was Antonelli who wanted to go into their pit box, but it was actually blocked. So I completely missed that one there. I thought it was the other way around. I don't know why. Very silly. But it is what it is. There's contact okay between Alonso and would that have been Hadjar at the time, or was that Lawson? Liam Lawson making contact with Fernando Alonso. That is not the first time that we have seen them two come together, and their relationship is not going to get any easier. Extraordinary stuff. And even more crazy, we see Oliver Behrman from 20th in qualifying be promoted to 19th before the race has started, be promoted to 18th as they follow under the safety car conditions before the race goes to green flags, has now made it work to P9 after a very unexpected safety car and some good overtaking in the first part of this race. Lap 16 out of 18, and I don't see this race continuing. I see this race being red flagged, and we will see Oliver Behrman just a little bit too far away from points. But with Liam Lawson very likely to have a time penalty for that collision, Oliver Behrman is looking at points. Lance Stroll is looking at points. Alex Albon looking at a brilliant P5. Kimi Antonelli absolutely distraught. P11 from P1 in this event. It is the sprint. They've got another opportunity later on and tomorrow for the big points. Still going to be disappointing, of course, but it is what it is. George Russell has been saved by that one, of course, a little bit, allowing him to get ahead of his teammate quite simply. It's Lando Norris who leads the way and looks to try and gain 1 point on his teammate, the championship leader of Oscar Piastri. And Hamilton has also managed to find some fortune. So if you look at it, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton and Oliver Behrman, the Brits, have managed to gain massively. George Russell hasn't necessarily gained, but they are definitely ahead of their teammate, so they'll be very thankful of that one for sure on the stat sheet, but it's still, of course, frustrating for the team. The safety car is still out. There are some talks about there being a one-lap shootout, but Fernando Alonso's car is still out on track right now. It's being pulled away. By the time we get to the end of this lap, it will be time to kind of get ready, but we're not going to be going racing once again. It is going to be yellow all the way to the end, and the order, as you see, would be the order that we will cross the line with, although Liam Lawson being involved in that collision with Fernando Alonso, 10-second time penalty for Max Verstappen. I thought it was going to be Liam Lawson. 10-second time penalty for Max Verstappen for an unsafe release, who's going to drop all the way back down the field. They're going to drop down to P11, quite possibly behind Pierre Gasly. Depends on how it all goes with the safety car, if people get bunched up or not. Regardless of the situation, regardless for Max Verstappen, they will be out of the points, and that's going to be a big hit to their championship. Of course, being in P3 in the title fight at the moment is just going to lose a massive chunk of points. Really disappointing, but it's the way it went with the team, and they're the only ones to blame. Lewis Hamilton looking to get his podium sprint once again, this time P3 instead of the victory in China. Absolutely amazing stuff right there for them. We're still waiting for some sort of call on Liam Lawson. It's been noted for now, and it will be investigated after the session. It's gonna be surely a penalty, and we'll see Oliver Behrman score a point. Maybe, no, we will see Yuki Tsunoda score a point, which would be absolutely incredible, and that's at least a bit of something sweet there for the Red Bull crew. And we start the final lap of the Grand Prix, and nothing is going to be changing. The only question is, what penalty will Lawson be getting? And how close will the field be bunched up? Where will Max Verstappen end up? Definitely out of the points. Unless someone tried to do something crazy, but his teammate isn't directly behind him, so he won't be able to get his teammate to kind of back up the grid. That would be illegal anyway, and there will probably be some more penalties. Now, Lando Norris has had some brilliant fortune here in the USA and is looking to try and take another victory for the second time in the US. Of course, they got the victory in the Grand Prix, their first victory on their CV in Formula One last year in 2024. This is not the Grand Prix, this is the sprint. But now they are coming into the third sector to crawl their way to victory in spectacular fashion. Oscar Piastri is going to be really feeling hard done by right now. But it's the way it goes. It's the risk that Lando took, and it's paid off. Lando Norris follows the safety car and heads to turn 17. Time penalty, of course, for Verstappen for the unsafe release from the Red Bull crew. And we will probably see Liam Lawson get some sort of penalty. We've seen Alonso, Sainz and Leclerc DNF throughout this sprint Grand Prix. We've seen action all the way up and down the field. We've seen pit stop errors. We've seen crashes. We've seen overtakes. And we will see Lando Norris round the final corner as the safety car goes into the pit lane. Lando Norris wins the sprint race in Miami. Oscar Piastri follows on to make it a McLaren 1-2 for some brilliant points. Verstappen drops down to Wow, 16 in the end, only finishing ahead of Jack Doohan after that time penalty and the massive bunching up of the grid. It's Lewis Hamilton who's P3 and gets a brilliant podium. Alex Albon to P4. George Russell gets P5. Lance Stroll with some brilliant points for Aston Martin. It didn't go for Fernando Alonso. Despite the brilliant qualifying, they still score some good points for the team. Liam Lawson, P7 for now. It's Oliver Behrman, who currently is classed at getting 1 point, looking for 2. And Yuki Tsunoda's waiting for that call as well to try and get a point to their championship. Kimi Antonelli, P10. Gasly, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, Ocon, Bortoletto, Doohan. Actually, Verstappen did get demoted behind Doohan in the end, who finishes P17 after a really disappointing way to end that Grand Prix. Didn't deserve that one at all. Verstappen had probably some of the worst luck there. Antonelli, as well, had some of the worst luck there. Lando Norris had some of the best luck and has managed to make it work. McLaren are on top. They extend their championship lead. And Lando Norris closes back up to Oscar Piastri in the Drivers' Championship to now make it less than 10 points. 9 points is the gap now to the championship between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri states that he's not going to be buying any lottery tickets around here in Miami. The engineer says, save the luck for tomorrow. We go again on Sunday for the Grand Prix. We'll go again in a few hours' time for qualifying, for Grand Prix qualifying. We will join you then in a few hours, of course, for that one. So do not miss it. It's going to be absolutely awesome. We'll see you in under an hour for the LSI F1.5 EU Championship as well. So do not miss that one. 1 hour, we'll see you for LSI. In just over 2 hours, we will see you for... I say that, 2 hours? 2 and a bit. For the qualifying session for the Miami Grand Prix. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. What a race that was. What a race that was. Who's going to get pole later? I reckon now Lando's got some good momentum. They're going to be very strong. Oscar Piastri's going to be hungry. Oscar Piastri, I'm still going to say, is going to go for pole position. I'm going to say it's going to be Lando Norris. And George Russell, who now seems to be a bit more dialed in with the car. They can make the changes, of course, before the sprint race. So that is something that they will be looking at. And we'll see who can get on top of that, which team can get on top of that. Max Verstappen will get a second opportunity to try and make an absolutely disastrous sprint race. Something a little bit better. Something to remember in the Miami Grand Prix of 2025. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you shortly for the F1.5 EU Championship in a bit. Have a good one.